Well, good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Automotive Market Minute that may or may not go long. My name is Steven Georgiella with my esteemed colleague,
Phil Trebatowski.
And we're going to go over a couple of market condition updates, as well as some statistics from our book of clients over the last month, if you will. So, Phil, if you could be so kind. Thank you, sir. So first of all, a little announcement. We are speaking at NIADA in June 2023. Prescription without diagnosis is malpractice, tying your advertising to your sales and vice versa. So hope you can come join myself and Phil in Las Vegas. But we're going to go through April updates. So new sales up 3% month over month, 0 year over year. Used sales were down 13.43% month over month, but up nearly 9% year over year. Total sales down 7.3% month over month. Total leads down 8.5% month over month. Core leads, which is website leads, down just under 8% month over month. Appointments set down just under 7% per month. And then here's the interesting thing. And we knew that this was going to happen with used car prices as well as new inventory coming out, but incentives not being nearly as high as they should be, if you ask Phil and I. Appointments shown 9% or down 9%, but appointments sold down 13%. So even though dealers were getting almost the same amount of leads and such, and appointments were, everything was fairly flat, 13% down in an actual appointment sold. So that was tough. So Phil, real quick, with regards to the used vehicle index and used car prices declining, talk to me about, I know that dealers were trying to go buy vehicles and they were extremely expensive, and so they didn't buy vehicles. And so I know you heard all month about dealers that were like, hey, my used car lead volume is down when they normally stock 60 and instead they had 35.
Correct. That's likely due to the used car supply being at historical lows right now. There are not that many used cars out on the streets right now, and it's making sourcing used inventory extremely difficult for our dealers.
Yeah, and one of the things I heard this morning was, listen, I'm going to lose a little bit on the front, and then I'll feed the store with getting the vehicle ready, recon for service, and then making some on the back end, because the last thing I'm going to do is not sell. I believe the quote this morning was you guys are selling 42 cars. Just sell 100 and I'll lose 55 grand on the front and the back, and I'll just make a bunch of money in service, was the quote from this morning. So I know, Phil, you had a little bit of information regarding the Cox Automotive forecast, but real quick on slide 3 there, if you don't mind. So guys, just a reminder, as you're making your decisions to market your store a certain way, merchandise your store a certain way, or with your salespeople, break it into 3 levels is my suggestion. Level 1 is in-market demand and how much you pay for it. That's your marketing budget as a whole. That should be ideally set up in what's called a media mix model. Reach out to me or Phil should you have questions on that. Level 2 is website and inventory. That's merchandising the vehicles. You can get all the traffic in the world, but are you going to convert those people into an actual opportunity, or a lead as we call it? And level 3 is a lead nurturing phase. That's when your salespeople take over. The last thing you want to do is blame the wrong level here, because you'll waste an excess. So just keep that in mind. That's definitely our suggestion. Phil, if you don't mind, go to the supporting graphs real quick. Cool. So real quick here, it's interesting that the inventory bumped up for General Motors and for Ford, but we're talking to the small town Ford guys right now that were struggling with aging inventory and stuff with some of the crappier inventory with Ford, and Ford's not sending them as many. So it seems like it's lopsided. And Phil, I know you had a conversation with a Ford dealer this last week. Can you give some of the sentiment from the small town guy that's not doing so well?
Sentiment is rough right now for some of those rural dealers. They're really struggling to just have the inventory to support the sales that they need to be profitable. And it's rough for some of the Ford stores, specifically in rural areas.
Yeah, and if you don't have more of a progressive strategy as it currently sits, we just kind of get to hear that these guys have these let's call it rural stores with some possibly some electric vehicles or other vehicles that their market does not want, and then of course it's sitting there and it's costing them more and more money each month. So Phil, on that supporting graph there, you want to talk about the index a little bit and what you've seen this month?
Yeah, so we've seen after a recent uptrend in used vehicle values starting in April, we did start to see a small decline in the overall used vehicle index. That's the main thing here. It looks like, considering all the variables, with new inventory continuing to improve and increase year over year, this was somewhat expected. However, as we mentioned earlier, the overall used vehicle supply is at historical lows. So we are not expecting to see a free fall here, but more or less a balancing out of where used vehicle prices are currently at.
Yeah, and we immediately heard going into May that the lenders are tightening up real quick because all of a sudden, Mr. Dealer that owned his vehicle for 40 grand, he already lost $1,000 immediately in the month of April on that vehicle should he not have moved it. So if you have a slower inventory turn, you might get a call from Ally and they'll ask you for a check for 75 grand real quick. But anywho, the final piece here is as the OEMs are sending out new inventory to some of the teams, to some of the stores, there's an opportunity to take share. And Phil, I know you had something with regards to Hiley Buick GMC up in Dallas. I know that they were kind of sitting here and they were battling some dealers that were getting tons of inventory. And it was basically, okay, so we're probably going to get some more inventory. We must sell through it. Otherwise, we're going to stay. They used to be number one forever. Now they got kind of crushed during COVID, not crushed, but you get the point. So now is the time for them to take it back. February, March, and April, what did you see there?
Yeah, so specifically the GM, Eric Schimmels, he's wanted to get really aggressive as new inventory has continued to improve throughout Q1 and now into to Q2. And so, we've been testing out offers, testing out dynamic ads, really seeing what has been resonating with the market. But as April has come and as inventory has improved, we now have all of this data that we can rely on to really guide us and show us, well, where are we going to get the best return? Where are we going to generate the most opportunity? With inventory now starting to improve, we've gotten a little bit more aggressive. We've actually increased budgets at a couple stores, this being one of them. Not significantly, but overall, a pretty aggressive adjustment, more than what we have been spending previously. And, the results speak for themselves. We're continuing to see dealers who are able to effectively increase their inventory really start to take share during these months of 2023.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting going through the summertime. So again, if you guys are seeing any of these issues with regards to moving used cars, if you're seeing some of the issues with regards to getting new inventory and you're actually having to sell it off to other dealers because maybe it's not the right mix or maybe you're struggling to move them in your market, the main objective here is happy to say we now have 35 dealers across 14 states where we're able to aggregate all the data and help dealers make better decisions. So if you're curious about anything from the media mix to the conversion rates on your site and the conversion rates with third party down to your sales team, if you have questions, we genuinely love digging in and finding answers. So on behalf of Phil and of course myself, the Automotive Market Minute that may have taken just a few extra, we will see you next month.